a diplomat suitcase, a blood-stained document, and a missing girl connected to a powerful trafficking network. When K9 Rex locked onto that one bag at JFK, no one imagined it would unravel an international conspiracy. Every clue led deeper into the shadows, until Rex made a discovery that changed everything. How did a child's trust in one dog bring down an entire network? Watch till the end to find out. And if stories like this move you, don't forget to like and subscribe. There's more coming. The heat inside JFK's Terminal 4 had always been subtle, a mix of recycled air and human nerves. On that humid July afternoon, though, it seemed unusually suffocating, like the air itself knew something was off. Travelers hurried between gates, dragging wheeled suitcases and clutching boarding passes. Their conversations drowned beneath the steady hum of the PA system. Flight 42067 to Warsaw, now boarding at Gate 12. The voice was calm, routine, but near the diplomatic security checkpoint, a man stood motionless, casting a different kind of shadow. His name was Ambassador Andrei Volkov, a figure well known in circles far beyond New York City. To the public, he was a diplomat, a bridge builder, a veteran of international negotiations. But to a select few within law enforcement and intelligence, he was something, and today something about him felt wrong. Surveillance cameras caught the small signs first. Volkov, always a man of poise, kept checking his stainless steel watch. Every 2 minutes, like clockwork, he wiped his brow more than once despite the terminal's air conditioning. And though he held a sleek black carry-on bag with the casual grip of any seasoned traveler, his knuckles were pale with tension. Sitting behind a bank of monitors in a tucked-away control room, Agent Robert Klein of the TSA's Behavioral Detection Unit squinted. "Anna, take a look at this," he said, motioning toward one of the feeds. Beside him, Sergeant Anna Rivera leaned in, her dark eyes narrowing. She had seen Volkov before. His arrivals were almost ceremonial, but this wasn't his usual calm. And that bag? "He's not checking that bag," Anna noted aloud. "He's holding it too tight." Klein nodded. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" Anna reached down to snap on her duty belt. "Let's see if Rex agrees." In the bustling corridors of JFK, Sergeant Rivera was known not just for her sharp instinct for her partner Rex, a 5-year-old Belgian Malinois with a flawless service record. Rex wasn't a typical sniffer dog. He'd been trained extensively in detecting everything from narcotics to blood traces and even rare chemical signatures. More importantly, Anna trusted his instincts more than most humans. Moments later, Anna and Rex approached the diplomatic checkpoint under the pretense of a routine security pass. Volkov stood alone, the crowd thinning around him as other diplomats passed through with familiar waves and nods. Anna gave a polite smile, her badge visible but her demeanor casual. "Good afternoon, Ambassador." Random K9 sweep shouldn't take but a moment. Volkov's jaw tightened. He gave a tight nod, shifting slightly but keeping the bag in his grasp. "Of course. I understand." Anna noticed the slight movement immediately, the kind you wouldn't see unless you were trained to look. Rex, already on alert from the moment they entered the space, lowered his head and began his methodical circle. 1 pass, nothing. 2 passes, his ears twitched. On the 3rd, Rex's entire body stiffened. His hackles rose. Anna's breath caught. Without hesitation, Rex lunged, not aggressively but with laser focus, toward the carry-on. His jaws closed around the bag's leather handle with surprising force. "Rex, heel!" Anna commanded sharply, but her voice betrayed surprise. Rex wasn't a dog prone to mistakes or overreaction, and he had never done this before, not once in 3 years of working side by side. "This is unacceptable," he barked, yanking the bag upward. Rex's grip tightened, his growl low, vibrating through the space. The few travelers nearby turned to stare. A second agent appeared, radio already in hand. "What's going on here?" Anna didn't answer immediately. Her eyes were locked on Rex. She had trained with him long enough to know the signs. This wasn't a response to drugs or explosives. This was something else entirely. Blood. Her heart rate spiked. She'd seen Rex react like this once during a grim human trafficking case months ago. Anna took a comic breath. "Sir," she said to Volkov, her voice now authoritative, "I'm going to need you to set that bag down immediately." Volkov didn't move. Sweat beaded his temple, His voice, when it came, was icy. "I invoke diplomatic immunity. You will not touch this bag." Anna's fingers hovered near her radio. She knew the rules, but she also knew something was terribly wrong. Volkov's refusal, combined with Rex's reaction, elevated this beyond standard protocol. Behind her, Klein's voice crackled in her earpiece. "Anna, FBI is en route. Stall him. Do not let him leave that checkpoint." Anna nodded subtly. "Ambassador, with all due respect," she said, stepping closer. Rex still braced against the bag. "This is no longer a request. For your safety and the safety of all passengers, you will comply." Volkov's grip tightened again, but now subtle tremors ran through his hand. Anna's eyes caught the faintest smear of dark red along the lower seam of the black leather. Blood. Confirmed. At that moment, two plainclothes FBI agents appeared behind the cordon. The taller one spoke calmly but firmly. "Ambassador Volkov, please come with us." For a heartbeat, Volkov looked like he might bolt, but years of diplomacy won out. With a slow, deliberate movement, he released the bag. Rex stood protectively between Anna and the suitcase, eyes unblinking. The agents escorted Volkov away. Anna exhaled, her grip relaxing slightly. "Good boy," she whispered to Rex, though her mind was racing. What the hell was in that bag? "Agent Rivera, hold perimeter," came the sharp voice of Special Agent Tom Grayson as he approached with a forensic kit in one hand and a tablet in the other. Anna glanced over at him, noting the subtle tension in his stride. They had worked together once before. Tom was thorough, methodical, and unflappable. But today, even his voice carried an edge. "We've got the ambassador in a secure interview room." Stalling him with State Department protocol, he added quickly, "Let's see what's so damn important about that bag." Anna gave a single nod, her gaze dropping to Rex, who remained seated, inches from the black leather carry-on, ears twitching but posture calm, awaiting her next cue. Around them, a cordon of TSA and FBI agents had cleared the immediate vicinity. Curious passengers were kept at bay by uniformed officers. The scene unfolding just beyond the opaque security barriers. Grayson crouched beside Anna. "Any idea what he's transporting?" Anna shook her head. Rex alerted hard, but it wasn't a typical narcotics or explosive response. Her tone dropped slightly. "It was blood. I've seen him do this once before." Grayson's jaw tightened. "That fits." He gestured toward a tech from the forensics unit. "Camera ready?" The tech gave a thumbs up, the tiny lens of his body cam catching every angle. "All right," Grayson said, snapping latex gloves into place. "Let's open it." Anna kept her hand near her sidearm, though instinct told her the danger now wasn't explosive. Grayson unzipped the bag in practiced motions, peeling back the top flap slowly, methodically. For a moment, it looked like an ordinary diplomatic case. Two neatly folded dress shirts, a leather-bound notepad, and a small shaving kit. Grayson exhaled slightly. "Looks benign so far." But as he began removing the layers, something shifted in the base of the suitcase. A faint, irregular bulge beneath a false panel. He paused, fingers probing the seam carefully. "There's something underneath." I knelt closer, watching as Grayson slid a thin tool into the lining. With a careful pull, the false bottom gave way with a soft snap. Immediately, the metallic tang of dried blood hit Anna's senses. Even Rex emitted a soft whine, shifting forward slightly. Grayson's eyes narrowed. Inside, packed tightly against the suitcase walls, was a thick stack of documents bound with red twine. The top edges were crisp white, but the bottom half was soaked a dark, congealed red. Blood had seeped through several layers, staining the pages unevenly. Anna swallowed hard. "Jesus." Grayson nodded grimly. "No weapons, no drugs, just this." He slid the stack carefully onto an evidence tray, motioning for the forensic photographer. "Get every angle. We'll run a full scan, but first priority, confirm the blood type." Anna leaned closer as the photographer worked. The documents themselves appeared to be official, pages stamped with the emblems of various government agencies, some in Cyrillic, others in English. One loose sheet fluttered as it was handled, revealing what looked like an internal intelligence memo marked classified, "at only." Anna glanced at Grayson. "You seeing this?" Grayson gave a terse nod. "Yeah, but why smuggle this like a drug mule? And who's bleeding?" Minutes later, a portable forensic analyzer was brought in. The tech, a lean woman named Clara Ewan, ran a gloved swab along the blood-soaked edges and inserted the sample into the device. The machine hummed softly as it processed. Grayson paced nearby, arms crossed, mind clearly racing. Anna stayed by Rex, absently stroking the dog's head while her eyes remained locked on the evidence tray. Something about this felt larger than any diplomatic breach she'd encountered. The tension in the air built with each second of silence. Finally, the machine beeped. Clara read the screen, her brow furrowing. It's human blood. Anna's breath caught. That's an incredibly rare blood type, less than 1% of the population, Grayson muttered, and not something you expect to find dripping through a Diplomat suitcase. He turned toward his comms unit. Notify FBI homicide and counterintelligence. We've got possible human trafficking or worse. Anna's voice was low but urgent. And whoever that blood belongs to, they could still be alive. Grayson nodded grimly. Or dead, and this is a warning. He tapped his earpiece, giving rapid orders. Lock this entire terminal down. I want every camera feed from the last 24 hours. And pull all departure manifests connected to Volkov. Anna stood. Her instincts sharpened. The presence of classified documents soaked in rare human blood suggested not just a crime, but a message. This wasn't random. It was deliberate, targeted. She glanced again at Rex, who remained vigilant. I'll stay with the evidence, she said to Grayson. This isn't over. Not even close. Grayson agreed. I want a full chain of custody log on that stack. And Anna? Stay sharp. I think we just kicked over a very dangerous hornet's nest. He moved off to coordinate the next steps, leaving Anna and Rex alone with the chilling discovery. Anna watched as forensic agents packed the blood-stained documents with painstaking care. In the back of her mind, questions piled fast and thick. Who was bleeding? Why were classified documents being smuggled this way? And why had a seasoned diplomat risked everything to carry them? One thing was certain. Whatever lay beneath this surface was bigger than a single suitcase. Much bigger. The cold hum of the FBI's secure briefing room on the second floor of JFK's Terminal Command Center buzzed softly in the background as Special Agent Tom Grayson closed the heavy soundproof door behind him. Inside, the room was dim except for a wall of screens streaming live camera feeds and data streams from the forensic analysis underway. Agent Rivera stood near the evidence table, arms crossed, watching the images flicker. Rex lay by her feet, eyes half-lidded but ears still twitching at every sharp sound. Grayson addressed the gathered team without preamble. We've got one suitcase full of classified documents soaked in human blood. The carrier is Ambassador Andrei Volkov. He's currently invoking diplomatic immunity and refusing further cooperation. A ripple of tension passed through the room. Across the table sat Special Agent Marcus Vance, a veteran field operative with close-cropped gray hair and the kind of gaze that seemed to see 2 moves ahead. He had arrived barely 15 minutes ago after hearing Volkov's name over secure channels. Vance had a history with the man, a long one. Grayson gestured to the forensic tech Clara Yoon. Abiblad rare as hell. No matching reports of missing persons yet, but we're widening the search. He glanced toward the screen again. For now, our hands are tied unless we can find leverage. At that, Vance cleared his throat. The room fell into a curious hush. Leverage may already exist, Vance said. Vance, of you know I worked Eastern Europe during the late 80s and early 90s. Volkov wasn't just some clean-sighted diplomat back then. He had deep ties to certain organized networks operating across the Balkans and Eastern Bloc. Black alley passports, rare art, trafficking. Rivera frowned. You're saying human trafficking? Vance gave a slow nod. That's exactly what I'm saying. His name popped up in multiple intelligence intercepts. Always one step removed, always insulated. But too many coincidences over too many years. Grayson exhaled sharply. Now he shows up here with a suitcase full of blood-soaked intel. You think he's still connected? Vance's stare didn't waver. If I had to bet my pension, yes. The room absorbed this with grim silence. Rivera spoke next. He claimed he brought the bag himself. But Rex's behavior suggests otherwise. Grayson nodded. We're pulling every frame of security footage now. If he lied about that, it gives us our opening. Across the room, the lead tech monitoring the camera archive waved a hand. Got something? All heads turned toward the main screen. The tech rewound a feed from Terminal 4's VIP entrance. There was Volkov entering alone. Then, after a 10-minute gap, another angle caught him near the private lounge. He stood talking to a woman, tall, medium build, dark skin, wearing a striking red trench coat that contrasted sharply with the surrounding flow of muted business attire. "Pause," Grayson ordered. The image froze. Volkov stood with his hands clasped behind him, posture relaxed but face unreadable. The woman held a medium-sized black suitcase, identical to the one now sitting in their evidence locker. "Enhance on her face," Rivera said quickly. The tech complied, though the angle and lighting left the image grainy. Still, enough detail emerged. High cheekbones, hair pulled into a tight bun, large silver hoop earrings. The timestamp read 14:37 hours. That's 15 minutes before his official check-in, Grayson observed. Facial recognition. The tech was already typing, system humming as the scan processed. Moments passed with only the soft tapping of keys and the low static of the surveillance feeds. Then a negative chime. "No hits in federal databases," the tech reported. "No passport entry under her face in the last 6 months. Nothing in Interpol watchlist lists. Either." Rivera frowned. "Ghost? She's not a ghost, she's a courier. This matches known profiles of handoff operatives used by trafficking rings. They often stay off-grid, rotate identities, and vanish." Grayson gestured. "Keep tracking." The tech fast-forwarded the footage. They watched as Volkov accepted the suitcase, offered a slight nod, then turned toward the VIP line. The woman remained stationary for several moments, glancing around subtly. Then, at precisely 14:42, she moved with deliberate calm toward Terminal E's connecting corridor. Another camera caught her brisk walk, still clutching her own slim leather shoulder bag. "Follow her," Grayson instructed. The tech switched feeds, tracing the red coat through the airport's vast network of cameras. For nearly 2 minutes, they kept eyes on her as she navigated toward Terminal E's security checkpoint. Then, abruptly, she was gone. One frame captured her turning into a maintenance service corridor near an out-of-service elevator. The next frame did corridor. Grayson cursed softly. "Check all exits from that level. Check service access logs. Someone help her disappear." Rivera studied the frozen frame of the empty hallway. She knew the blind spots. Vance added, "She's experienced, this wasn't her first run." The realization settled heavily over the team. Kolkov hadn't been caught in a lapse of judgment. This had been a coordinated delivery. And someone with serious operational skill was helping him. "We need to know what was on those documents," Grayson said grimly. "And we need to find her before she clears the state." Rivera looked toward Vance. If Volkov is part of a trafficking network, this could be a rescue mission in progress, not just evidence collection. Vance nodded, agreed. Grayson straightened, a rare flicker of adrenaline in his tone. "All right, full forensic analysis continues on the documents. Vance, contact your old channels. Anything we can pull on Volkov's current associations, do it. Rivera, you and I are going to speak to the ambassador again. Diplomatic immunity or not, I want him sweating." He glanced again at the frozen image of the woman in red. "And someone find me that courier." The dim glow of the conference room's wall of monitors reflected off Agent Grayson's tense features as the team reconvened hours later, the urgency in the room now palpable. The image of the mysterious woman in red remained frozen on one screen, but now a new feed ran on the main display, digital shipping records and logistics manifests pulled from the suitcase's RFID tray. Agent Rivera sat forward, brow furrowed, fingers poised over her tablet as the forensic tracking team finished their report. Grayson broke the silence. "We ran a full scan on the suitcase's embedded chip. Turns out this wasn't Volkov's personal luggage after all." He nodded toward Clara Ewan, who had been coordinating with Homeland Security's Logistics Analysis Unit. Clara tapped the screen, bringing up a chain of customers. The suitcase was scanned 4 days ago at a private warehouse operated by Global Way Freight, a third-tier international shipping firm headquartered out of Prague, but with a regional hub in Newark, New Jersey. Rivera frowned. Global Way, that name's been on watch lists. Clara nodded. "Correct. Their Eastern European operation is suspected of facilitating human trafficking for at least 5 years. FBI Joint Task Force flagged them multiple times, but we've never been able to pin anything concrete." Grayson leaned forward. "Until now, He gestured toward the screen again. Look at this. A time-stamped image appeared, an interior shot of the Global Way warehouse floor. Among pallets of innocuous freight stood the now infamous black suitcase, clearly tagged for diplomatic transport 2 days before Volkov's arrival. Clara explained, "The tag ID matches precisely with the RFID scan we ran on the bag after Rex's alert. There's no doubt, it moved through that warehouse." Rivera's mind raced, so either Volkov is deeply complicit, or someone used him as a high-level mule. Vance, seated in the corner with arms crossed, spoke up. Or both. A network like this uses layers of deniability. Volkov may know exactly what he's ferrying, or he may only know enough to protect his own interests. Grayson stood, pacing slowly. Either way, this confirms the trafficking link, and now we've got another thread. He motioned for Clara to continue. She brought up a forensic report, freshly printed and annotated in red. The blood analysis cross-referenced every open missing persons case nationwide where recent DNA was available. "We got a hit an hour ago." The room stilled. Grayson's voice dropped. "Who?" Clara's expression hardened. "Name, Sophia Bennett. Age 7. Reported missing 48 hours ago in Washington, D.C. DNA matches 99.9% certain. The blood on those documents came from her." Rivera's heart clenched involuntarily. She leaned forward. "Sophia Bennett, that's the case out of Foggy Bottom." Clara nodded grimly. "Yes, you do. The father, Daniel Bennett, is Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs. High clearance, high visibility. He reported his daughter missing after she disappeared from a supervised park outing in Georgetown. No ransom demands, no communications. The weight of the revelation seemed to settle over the room like concrete. Grayson exhaled slowly. "You're not just dealing with trafficking anymore. We're dealing with a political nightmare in the making." Rivera's mind burned with images, an innocent child, blood-staining classified documents, tangled in a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of international diplomacy. "Has Bennett been notified?" she asked quietly. Grayson shook his head. "Not yet. We're coordinating with DC Metro and the State Department Crisis Response Team. We wanted confirmation first. Now we have it." Vance stood, eyes sharp. "This ups the stakes. Whoever is behind this has no problem using a diplomat to move evidence of a child they kidnapped. And if Sophia's blood is on those documents, that means she was with them very recently." Grayson nodded grimly. "Agreed. Our timeline just shrank dramatically," Clara added. "There's more. The classified documents themselves are primarily U.S. State Department and European intelligence memos. None should have been outside secure channels. Someone deliberately packaged them with Sophia's blood as a message, or a shield." Rivera's stomach twisted. "The shield?" Clara explained. "If the suitcase were intercepted under diplomatic cover, the blood evidence might have triggered a jurisdictional quagmire, forcing delays while legal battles played out. It's a calculated risk," Grayson muttered, "and it almost worked." He turned to Rivera. "I want you and Rex back on surveillance review. Find out if anyone else connected to Global Way Freight entered JFK in the past 48 hours. Rivera nodded. "On it." As she rose, Vance added, "And dig deeper into the courier. A woman with that kind of operational skill doesn't vanish into thin air. Someone helped her, or she's got an exfil plan already in motion." Rivera's gaze hardened. "We'll find her." Meanwhile, Grayson's phone buzzed. He stepped aside to answer, listening intently. When he returned, his expression had darkened further. "State Department wants a full sit-rep within the hour. Bennett himself is already on a secure line with the director. They've ordered us to proceed with maximum discretion, but they also want results." Rivera tightened her jaw. "Then we'd better give them some." Grayson looked toward the team. "Let's move. We've got a child's life on the line, a compromised diplomat in custody, and a trafficking ring that thinks it can outmaneuver us on our own soil." He glanced again at the frozen image of Sophia Bennett from the missing persons database. Her bright eyes staring out from the screen. The clock was ticking fast now, and failure was not an option. The tension in the operations room had reached a neuric point when the encrypted line rang sharply, breaking the anxious silence. Agent Grayson snatched the handset, motioning for the team to quiet down. "FBI Special Agent Grayson," he said curtly, The voice on the other end was distorted, clearly using a scrambler. "Listen carefully," the caller said. "You're looking for the little girl, Sophia Bennett. She's being moved, I saw her. She was loaded onto a private jet, tail number November Tango 394 Alpha. The plane is prepping for takeoff from a restricted hangar east side of the airport. If you hurry, you might catch them." The line went dead before Grayson could respond. He slammed the phone down and barked, "Trace that call, now." Clara Ewan was already pulling metadata from the call log. Minimal trace. Looks like they used a burn phone and routed through 2 proxies. But location pings match inside the airport perimeter. Rivera looked at Grayson sharply. "You think it's legit?" Grayson didn't hesitate. "We can't afford to think, we move." He turned toward the rapid response team, already assembling near the weapons locker. "Gear up. Target is a private jet, tail N394A East Hangars. We go in hard." Rivera grabbed her tactical vest, fingers moving quickly as she strapped it on. Rex stood alert at her side, sensing the shift in energy. Grayson keyed his mic. "Airfield security, this is Special Agent Grayson. Lock down all runways east of the commercial terminals. I want intercept teams in position on the tarmac now." The command center buzzed into motion as agents deployed, racing toward black Suburbans that would take them to the eastern edge of the airport. Rivera rode in the lead vehicle, heart pounding, eyes scanning the incoming feed from airport surveillance drones, now repositioned toward the target hangar. On the main screen, the private jet was visible. A sleek Gulfstream G650, engines already humming, ground crew moving with suspicious urgency. Clara's voice came through the comms. "Visual confirmation, tail number matches. They're buttoning the hatch now." Grayson's voice cut in. "Move! Go, go!" The Suburbers screeched to a halt outside the hangar perimeter. The tactical team fanned out, weapons ready. Grayson led the charge, Rivera and Rex close behind as they breached the service door with a single explosive charge. The door flew inward with a deafening bang. The team stormed through the narrow corridor and out onto the tarmac just as the jet's staircase began retracting. "FBI, stop that plane!" Grayson bellowed, waving his badge. The ground crew scattered, startled, hands raised. 2 agents sprinted for the jet's cockpit ladder, forcing the pilot to cut the engines. Rivera raced up the stairs with Rex bounding beside her, adrenaline surging. Inside the cabin, the polished luxury of the jet stood in stark contrast to the frantic energy outside. Rivera's gaze swept the space, leather seats, glass partitions, a small galley, but no sign of Sophia. "Clear the front," she ordered. 2 agents moved forward, rifles ready, sweeping the cockpit and storage compartment. Rivera moved toward the rear cabin door, which hung slightly ajar. She signaled for Rex to stay close. With a swift kick, she forced the door open, weapon raised. The space beyond was dimly lit, the air faintly perfumed. On the floor, in the center of the plush carpet, sat a single object. A black suitcase identical in appearance to the one Volkov had carried. Rivera's pulse spiked. She approached cautiously, scanning for traps. "No child," one agent confirmed from the forward section. Rivera keyed her mic. "No visual on Sophia, but we have a suitcase, possible bait." Grayson's voice came back grim. "Understood. Secure and sweep the plane, we'll cross-check manifests." Rivera crouched beside the suitcase, heart racing. The zipper was already half undone. She pulled it open the rest of the way with gloved hands. Inside, nothing. Just a single folded piece of paper resting on the lining. Rivera unfolded it carefully, eyes narrowing as she read the handwritten message in neat block letters. The clock, a chill ran through her. Grayson entered the cabin seconds later, face drawn. "Anything?" Rivera showed him the note. "They knew we were coming." Grayson cursed softly. Someone tipped them off, or they staged this whole thing to buy time. Rivera stood, adrenaline still coursing. "We need to lock down the airport tighter. Check every manifest for outgoing flights in the past 2 hours. And we need more eyes on Terminal E." Grayson nodded grimly. "We just got played." But they left a trail. As the team secured the jet and interrogated the startled pilot and crew, Rivera stood by the cabin door, gaze sweeping the empty tarmac. Rex sat beside her, still, eyes fixed ahead. Somewhere out there, Sophia was still in danger, and whoever orchestrated this knew exactly how to stay one step ahead. The jet engines outside the hangar had long since gone silent, leaving only the low hum of tactical radios and the heavy tension of frustration hanging in the air. Rivera stood beside Rex on the tarmac, watching as forensic teams swept the cabin again, while Grayson spoke tersely into a secure line with Washington. Inside the command center, Clara Ewan cross-referenced flight manifests and crew lists, her fingers moving rapidly across the keyboard. At the same time, an encrypted ping alerted Grayson's tablet. A message from the FBI Financial Crimes Unit had just arrived. Grayson opened it, eyes narrowing as he read the flagged transaction report. He called out, voice sharp, "Everyone listen up, we've got a new lead." The room stilled as he continued. Internal audit just picked up a suspicious wire transfer. $200,000 moved through a Cayman account to a domestic bank yesterday morning. Recipient is Henry Colton, Senior Security Supervisor here at JFK. 15 years on the job, spotless record. Until now. Rivera leaned in. That's not coincidence. Grayson nodded. Agreed. Timing lines up perfectly. The funds cleared less than 6 hours before Volkov's arrival. Clara pulled up Colton's personnel file, the familiar blue interface of Homeland Security records flickering on the screen. He's scheduled on rotation covering the East Hangar perimeter the day of the flight. He would have had clearance to override or delay certain camera feeds. Rivera's jaw tightened. That explains how the woman in red vanished so easily. Colton was likely the inside man. Grayson didn't hesitate. Bring him in, quietly. We don't want to spook anyone else who may be involved. 2 agents moved swiftly to locate Colton, while Rivera remained near the evidence table, where the contents of the decoy suitcase had been meticulously laid out. She eyed the note again. You're too late, touched the clock. But something else caught her attention. Tucked in a side pocket of the suitcase, previously overlooked, was a small folded scrap of paper, no larger than a business card. Carefully, Rivera donned gloves and retrieved it. At first glance, it appeared innocuous. A series of symbols scrawled in black ink, almost like a child's doodle. But the instant her gaze fell upon the markings, her pulse spiked. Grayson, she called sharply, you need to see this. He crossed the room quickly. Rivera handed him the scrap. Grayson blinked. You're certain? Rivera's voice was low but sure. Positive. I worked a joint task force in Budapest 4 years ago. The Brotherhood operates across Eastern Europe. Smuggling, extortion, trafficking. They use these symbols as internal markers for coded instructions. I've seen this exact pattern on intercepted comms before. Grayson exhaled slowly. Which means we're not just dealing with a rogue diplomat or a single trafficking ring. We're looking at an organized mafia operation with roots deep in Eastern Europe, and they've just escalated this to our front door. Rivera's gaze remained on the symbols, her mind racing. This isn't just about moving Sophia. It's about sending a message. They staged the decoy because they knew we were closing in. Grayson's voice hardened. And they had help inside. We'll break Colton and find out how deep this goes. Moments later, agents returned with Colton in custody. The veteran security officer looked pale, sweat beading his forehead as he was escorted into the interrogation room. Rivera and Grayson watched from behind the one-way glass as Agent Vance began questioning him. Henry, Vance began calmly, sliding a copy of the wire transfer receipt across the table. $200,000. Offshore to domestic, explain. Colton's hands trembled visibly. I can't, he stammered. You can and you will, Vance pressed. Or you're going to spend the rest of your life in federal lockup. Colton swallowed hard. They approached me, said they'd pay if I made sure certain cameras were offline for 15 minutes. I didn't know. Vance cut him off. Who approached you? Colton's gaze darted. I don't know their names. One was a woman, European accent. They threatened my family. Vance leaned in. Describe her. Tall, dark skin, red coat, Colton whispered. Rivera's eyes met Grayson's through the glass. Confirmation. It was their courier. Grayson keyed his mic. Get every recording we can of Colton's communications from the past 72 hours and recheck personnel access logs for other anomalies. Clara was already pulling the data. Meanwhile, Rivera turned back to the ciphered scrap of paper. I need a secure line to Budapest, she said quietly. Grayson nodded. Do it. Any edge we can get. As Rivera stepped away, Rex followed close behind, sensing her urgency. In her gut, she knew this was just the surface. The Brotherhood didn't operate in the open without reason. Whatever their endgame was, it was far from over. The early morning light filtered through the high-security windows of the command center as Agent Rivera entered with a fresh file clutched in one hand. She had spent the past 6 hours coordinating with her old contacts in Budapest. The flickering digital call with Interpol's Financial Crimes Division still fresh in her mind. Now, with her adrenaline dulled only by exhaustion, she pushed through the door where Grayson and Vance were already hunched over an array of new intel. Grayson looked up first. "Anything?" Rivera nodded grimly. "More than we expected. Budapest confirms the cipher is authentic. The Brotherhood is active again, and they're far more embedded than we thought." Before anyone could respond, Clara Yin burst into the room, her tablet glowing with newly unlocked data. "You're going to want to see this," she said breathlessly. On the main screen, a scanned image of a passport appeared, one that had not been in Volkov's declared diplomatic records. The name was different: Alexander Petrovic, citizen of Montenegro. The photo was unmistakably Volkov, though subtly altered with facial hair and minor digital enhancements. Clara explained, "Found this in a hidden cache on a second RFID chip embedded in Volkov's briefcase lining. Cross-referenced the passport number through DHS and customs logs. Petrovic has entered the US 7 times in the past 2 years." Rivera's brow furrowed. "So he's been moving between identities, smuggling himself through clean channels." Clara nodded. "Exactly. Under Alexander Petrovic's, he's moved in and out of New York, DC, and Miami, all aligning with spikes in suspected trafficking activity." Vance leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "That explains the arrogance. He knows how to manipulate the system. Under one name, he's a protected diplomat. Under another, a ghost moving through the shadow." Grayson's jaw tightened. "We need leverage to hold him. Something ironclad." Rivera gestured toward the Interpol file she had brought in. "We may have it." She laid the documents on the table, flipping through images and case summaries. Interpol's Financial Crimes Task Force tagged Volkov under both names years ago. He was identified as the central figure in a massive European laundering operation. They used diplomatic channels to move funds for trafficking, arms, and narcotics. Billions over a decade. The ring collapsed 3 years ago, but Volkov vanished before charges could be filed. Kara added, "Interpol had a red notice ready, but political pressure killed it. Too many governments feared diplomatic fallout." Grayson leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Now we know why he's here and why he had Sophia." Rivera agreed. "The Brotherhood's laundering operation is rebuilding. They need leverage. Sophia's abduction may be part of a broader scheme to force concessions or destabilize State Department channels." Vance spoke up. "And Volkov's been flying under our radar the whole time, using diplomatic immunity as a shield and his second identity to orchestrate the real work." Grayson stood, pacing. "Gives us cause. Dual citizenship undeclared, false identity, use of diplomatic channels for criminal enterprise. We can revoke his immunity grounds with states' cooperation." Rivera's voice was low. "He'll know we're coming, and so will his network." Grayson nodded. "Then we stay ahead. I want a full forensic scrub of Volkov's consulate office here and in DC. Pull his entire digital footprint, anything we can use." Clara chimed in. "Already compiling. There's chatter on darknet channels suggesting the Brotherhood is mobilizing. They know we've disrupted this leg of the operation." Vance crossed his arms. "Which means they'll escalate. They won't abandon Sophia without trying to leverage her or erase the trail." Rivera's gaze returned to the image of Volkov's second passport. Her mind flashed back to Budapest, the shattered trafficking ring, the countless victims who had vanished behind layers of diplomatic fog. This wasn't just a mission anymore. It was personal. Grayson keyed his comms. "Secure conference with State and Interpol. We move on Volkov before his legal team locks this down." The room moved into motion as agents relayed orders, securing clearances and prepping warrants. Rivera stood silently for a moment, hand resting lightly on Rex's head. Somewhere out there, Sophia was still in the hands of men who thrived on such shadows. And now, the team knew exactly whose shadows they were chasing. The weight of the past 72 hours pressed heavily on Ana Rivera's shoulders as she sat alone in a dimly lit corner of the command center, elbows braced on her knees, eyes burning from lack of sleep. The revelations about Volkov's double life, the Brotherhood's re-emergence, and Sophia's continued disappearance churned in her mind like a relentless tide. Every lead had seemed promising, only to evaporate into smoke. Now Volkov sat in diplomatic limbo, protected by a fragile veil of immunity while his legal team scrambled for a full extraction. Grayson had mobilized every resource, but the deeper they dug, the more the Brotherhood's web seemed to stretch beyond their grasp. Anna exhaled sharply, frustration simmering. Perhaps Yarmo 3 was nothing solid had surfaced. The image of Sophia, bright-eyed, innocent, haunted her. She refused to let this case end in another cold file. A soft nudge broke her spiral of thought. Anna looked down to see Rex pressing his head gently against her knee. Amber eyes focused, ears pricked. He had remained by her side through the chaos, a silent constant. She stroked his head absently, murmuring, "I know, boy, we're not done yet." But Rex's body language shifted suddenly. He sniffed the air, posture tightening. With a soft growl, he tugged at the lead clipped to Anna's belt, pulling insistently toward the corridor. Anna frowned. "Rex, what is it?" He tugged again, more forcefully this time. Instinct flared in Anna's gut. Rex wasn't prone to false alarms. Heart quickening, she rose to her feet, unhooked his lead, and followed as he trotted briskly down the hall. "Grayson, I'm checking something," she called over her shoulder. Grayson glanced up but nodded. "Keep comms open." Rex led her through a series of maintenance corridors rarely used by passenger traffic, the hum of industrial fans and the distant thrum of jet engines growing louder. They emerged onto a lesser-used apron behind the eastern cargo terminals, an area that had only recently come under scrutiny in the investigation. The space was quiet now, the last cargo flight of the night having departed hours earlier. But Rex wasn't slowing. He weaved between idle cargo tugs and pallets of shrink-wrapped freight, until he reached an aging corrugated steel building marked Hangar C-17A Auxiliary Storage. Anna hesitated. The building had been flagged as decommissioned months ago, used sporadically for overflow mechanical parts, but the Brotherhood was anything but conventional. Rex scratched at the doorframe, nose working furiously. Anna tried the handle, locked. She keyed her comms. "Rivera, I'm at Hangar C-17A with Rex. He's got a strong alert. I need an entry team and forensics on standby." Grayson's voice crackled back. "Copy that. On the way." Not waiting, Anna retrieved her lockpick kit. Years of fieldwork had honed her skills. Within moments, the aged lock clicked open. She eased the door inward, weapon drawn. Stale air greeted her, tinged with the faint metallic scent of fuel and something sharper. Something wrong. Rex surged forward, nose to the concrete floor. Anna followed closely, scanning the cavernous space. Stacked crates and aging machinery loomed in the shadows. Then Rex stopped abruptly, hackles rising, a low growl rumbling from his chest. Anna's gaze dropped to the floor beneath a rusted conveyor belt. There, smeared faintly across the dust-streaked concrete, was a small but distinct trail of dark red. Blood, fresh enough to glisten faintly in the beam of her flashlight. Her pulse spiked. "Grayson, I've got blood." "Hold position," Grayson ordered. "We're coming in." But Anna couldn't stand still. Carefully, she traced the blood trail deeper into the hangar, Rex glued to her side. The smears led to a cluster of heavy-duty shipping crates stacked near the far wall, each labeled as industrial machine components, priority export. Her stomach nodded. This wasn't coincidence. Movement near the entrance signaled the arrival of Grayson and 2 tactical agents. Anna waved them over. "Trail leads here." Grayson swept the crates with practiced eyes. "Get forensics in, now." While the team set up lights and began cataloging the scene, Clara Yoon arrived with a mobile video unit. "Building's supposed to have old security cams," she said, plugging into a nearby junction box. The screen flickered to life, static crackling. Clara scrubbed through hours of archived footage, mostly empty frames. Then, just after midnight the previous night, a grainy black and white image emerged. 3 figures moved swiftly, 2 masked men and a woman in red. Between them they wheeled a large reinforced equipment crate onto a dolly, carefully maneuvering it inside. Clara's voice dropped. "Wait, zoom here." She enhanced a brief frame where the crate lid shifted slightly as it was wheeled into place. For a heartbeat, a small figure was visible inside, huddled back. Sophia, alive. Anna's breath caught. Grayson's fist clenched. Damn it, they moved her through cargo. They used this hangar as the handoff point. Clara fast forward. 40 minutes later, the crate was loaded onto a waiting cargo hauler bound for the air freight terminal. The manifest tagged the shipment for a chartered cargo flight departing at 3:17 hours. Destination unknown. Grayson barked, "Get that flight data. Where did it go?" Clara worked rapidly. Flight NTX 724 departed JFK 3 hours ago. Registered under a shell company linked to Global Way Freight. Rivera's voice was steely. They're one step ahead, but not far. She knelt beside Rex, voice low. "Good boy. You found her trail." Rex licked her hand once, gaze unwavering. Now they had proof Sophia had been alive mere hours ago, and a new lead to follow. But time was running out. Grayson's command voice rang across the operations floor as agents scrambled to trace the cargo flight identified from the dusty surveillance feed. Rivera hovered nearby, eyes locked on Clara's monitor. Every second ticked like a hammer blow. "Cargo hauler out of JFK wheels up 3 hours ago," Clara reported, fingers flying. "Registered to a shell corp under Global Way, flight plan vague, destination filed as maintenance hop but no specifics." Grayson stabbed a finger toward the air control liaison. "Priority intercept. Find that plane." The liaison's voice clipped over the comms. Radar picked them up, diverting west, now on approach to a private field, Catskill Regional, about 100 miles north. Not on any official flight plan. Grayson's jaw tightened. "They're offloading. Move now." Within minutes, a rapid response team was airborne aboard a Black Hawk. Grayson, Rivera, and Rex riding alongside. The low thrum of the rotors pulsed through their bones as they raced the clock. Clara's voice came through the tactical feed. "Local law enforcement securing the perimeter, but no telling how many players are on the ground." Grayson keyed his mic. Eyes sharp, Sophia could still be on board or moved. Rivera checked her weapon again, mind whirling. The Brotherhood's gambit had grown more desperate, more brazen. They wouldn't abandon leverage like Sophia without a fallback plan. Rex sat steady at her feet, gaze focused, as if sensing the stakes. As the Black Hawk touched down near the small fog-cloaked airstrip, agents deployed swiftly. The cargo hauler, a modified Boeing 737 freighter, sat idling at the far end. Ground crew hastily unloading crates under the glare of portable lights. Grayson led the charge, agents fanning out. FBI hands in the air, panic rippled through the crew. Most complied instantly, but 2 men bolted toward the tree line only to be tackled by waiting agents. Rivera sprinted toward the open cargo bay, Rex bounding ahead. The interior was a maze of secured containers and loose freight. "Clear every crate," she ordered. Sophia could be anywhere. Working methodically, the agents pried open container after container. Industrial parts, textiles, electronics. But no sign of Sophia. Then, near the rear bulkhead, Rivera spotted a familiar crate, heavy-duty, reinforced, marked with the same shipping codes seen in the hangar footage. Heart racing, she and Grayson flanked the container. "Go," Grayson said. Rivera wrenched the latch open. Inside, instead of Sophia, lay a child's pair of scuffed white sneakers, blood-stained, unmistakably worn. Beside them, folded neatly, was a torn scrap of paper. Rivera's hands trembled as she retrieved it. Scrawled in block letters was a single set of coordinates. She read them aloud. 40.7209 north, 73.8242 west. Grayson's face darkened. Rivera's gaze stayed locked on the sneakers. She was here, recently. A field agent keyed his GPS, brow furrowing. Coordinates ping a location in Queens, abandoned residential lot near Ridgewood. Known site for gang activity. Another voice chimed in. That address, task force flagged it 2 years ago, used to be a Brotherhood safe house suspected trafficking hub. Raided but no erase. The values of a full tactical deployment. We move on that site now. The Black Hawk lifted again, slicing through the pre-dawn sky toward Queens. Below, the city stirred toward daylight, oblivious to the race unfolding in its shadows. Rivera sat rigid, sneakers gripped in one hand. Sophia had been within reach. Now the Brotherhood was gambling everything on their next move. She glanced at Rex, whose body remained taut, gaze unblinking. They were not going to let the Brotherhood win. Not this time. The Black Hawk skimmed low over the East River as dawn painted the skyline of Queens in muted shades of gray and gold. In the hold, Agent Rivera crouched beside Rex, heart hammering. The coordinates had been confirmed. A derelict Victorian row house off a long-forgotten industrial block in Ridgewood, its history as a Brotherhood safehouse buried beneath years of bureaucratic neglect. Now it pulsed on their tactical map like a final red beacon. Grayson's voice cut through the comms. Teams 1 and 2 breach the front. Team 3 covers the rear. We go in fast, no margin. Rivera checked her weapon again, mind razor-focused. The child's sneakers still haunted her vision. Sophia was close. She had to be. As the Black Hawk touched down, tactical agents deployed swiftly. Fanning out through the deserted lot surrounding the house, the building loomed ahead, its sagging frame and boarded windows betraying little of the horrors it had once concealed. But Rex was already pulling at the lead, nose to the ground, body tense. "He's got something," Rivera reported. Grayson nodded. "Move." The breach was swift, precise. Explosive charges blew the warped front door inward, smoke and splinters billowing as agents flooded the ground floor. Rivera and Rex followed, sweeping through the decaying rooms, peeling wallpaper, broken furniture, the scent of mildew and old rot clinging to the air. But no sign of Sophia. "Basement," Rex's body language screamed. He pawed urgently at a section of floor near the back hallway. Rivera dropped to one knee, running her fingers along the edges. "Break her from the trap door," she called. Grayson and 2 agents converged, levering the hidden hatch open. A narrow staircase descended into darkness. The scent changed, colder, metallic, and sharp. "Go," Grayson ordered. Rivera led the descent, weapon raised, Rex glued to her side. The far end stood a steel door, reinforced and bolted. Muffled whimpers leaked through the seams. Rivera's pulse spiked. "She's here." Without hesitation, the breaching team moved in. Charges blew the lock with a deafening crack. The door swung inward, revealing a small soundproofed chamber lined with acoustic foam. In the center, beneath a single flickering bulb, Sophia sat curled on a thin mattress, filthy, trembling, eyes wide with terror. She was alive. Rivera surged forward, holstering her weapon. "Sophia, it's okay, you're safe." But the girl recoiled instinctively, body rigid with fear. Then Rex moved. Slowly, deliberately, he stepped past Rivera, tail low, ears back, emitting a soft, familiar whine. Sophia's gaze locked on him, and recognition flickered in her tear-filled eyes. A choked whisper escaped her lips. "Rex." Rivera froze. Grayson glanced sharply. "She knows him." Rivera's throat tightened. Apparently, Sophia uncurled slowly, eyes never leaving the dog. With a tentative motion, she reached out, fingers brushing Rex's fur. A sob racked her small frame. "You saved Aunt Mila." Rex had been part of an Interpol joint op 2 years prior, a rescue mission targeting a Brotherhood trafficking cell in Hungary. Mila Dvorak, a key witness and Sophia's aunt, had been among those freed. The connection had been buried in classified files. But for Sophia, the bond remained visceral. Rex licked her hand gently, his presence grounding her amidst the nightmare. Rivera crouched beside them. "You're safe now, Sophia, we're here." Grayson signaled for the medics as agents secured the basement. But Sophia's gaze remained on Rivera and Rex, voice trembling. Rivera smiled softly. "Yes, he did." Then Sophia leaned closer, voice dropping. "I heard them talking. There's another house in Astoria. More kids. They said to move them tonight." Rivera's breath caught. "Are you sure?" Sophia nodded, eyes clear. Grayson's voice was sharp. "Get that address now." Rivera stroked Sophia's hair. "You're very brave. Can you tell us everything you remember?" With Rex curled protectively beside her, Sophia began to speak. Her words steady, the dam of fear broken by the presence of the one friend she trusted. The room buzzed with quiet urgency as agents relayed the new intel. But for a brief moment, amidst the flurry of tactical prep and medical aid, Anna Rivera knelt in the circle of that child's fragile world. A circle held firm by the steady heartbeat of a dog who had once again found the lost and brought light to the shadows. And as Sophia's voice grew stronger, the loop closed, not just on a case but on a bond that transcended language, borders, and fear. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-world investigations and gripping narratives like this one. What do you think about the Brotherhood's tactics and how Rex became the key to unlocking the truth. Where are you watching from? Drop your thoughts and location in the comments below. I'd love to know.